I am Naji and
I'm Richard.
Therapeutic home-based care. So it's essentially fostering children between the ages of 0 and 18, focusing on the therapeutic side of things to ensure that they grow up to be the best versions of themselves.
We have a higher level of engagement, so we do a lot with the appointments, with things like speech, AT, physio, behavioural, a lot more wraparound supports, a lot more appointments, a lot more meetings.
We've been carers for 6 years, but full-time carers for the last 4. Richard's story is a little bit different to mine. Richard's been in the industry for 25 years and he comes from care as a child. I come from a very different background. I have been raised with parents, a big family, siblings. I had a lot of love and care in my life. I actually did not know this industry existed until I met Richard and we dove into fostering. It was actually about 10 years ago when we started speaking about it. The stigma behind fostering for me was really, really hard. The falling in love and taking care of a child and bringing him into your home, and then the potential of that child's not going to be your child down the track, which was really hard for me to grasp. But I'm unbelievably happy and proud that I've stepped into this world and that I'm able to care for these kids and give them the best chance, because it stops becoming about being a dad and it starts becoming about being a father, really.
You know, growing up in the system myself, I see things a bit differently. So for me, when I see kids that have got challenging behaviours, I don't particularly think that there's anything wrong with them. I think generally that if a kid's behaving a particular way, there's a reason behind it. I'm not saying it's appropriate, it's saying that that's their coping mechanism. I can use my expertise in the industry and also my own lived experience to be able to support them and guide them into making better decisions. I often see young people suffering, and it's usually because they're not able to be themselves. They're not able to do things that general kids that don't have the trauma experience. So I think us being able to look past that and be able to really work with what they want to do and what they can be. And I don't know, I don't have any regrets. I think that opening our home to these children is critical, it's important, and it's non-negotiable because kids need a home. It was. But there was a part of me that felt that these kids need us and they need a home and we could provide it. And I think that yes, you know, maybe they're not biological, but did that really matter? And now I've got 2 kids that are thriving, and the reality is if we hadn't taken them on, they would be in the system 100%.
It was a bit of a challenge for both of us. I think Richard coming from working in the sector and seeing the trauma that these kids have experienced and continue to experience, I think opening my eyes to it was the challenge right from the beginning, because Richard could foster on his own if he wanted to, and he works in it. So he's not surprised to any behaviours or any challenges, and the fact that we as foster parents are able to help just one child. Lucky we've got 2, but even just one child, and make that difference and hope that this child grows up to be an amazing person is a reward in itself. And I would love to constantly advocate for the children living in my home and the children out there that requires advocating, because for that in itself is a reward. And if we can have one outcome per child, a great outcome, a good story, that's the reason we do it, and that's the reason we'll continue to do it.
Yeah, it's close to a year.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Being thorough is important, right? Because if you're not, then you're going to end up with carers that are not there for the right reasons.
Sure.
And, you know, so that part is probably the only time in my life where I've been able to accept a process that took that long.
Obviously, being in a same-sex relationship and coming from a Lebanese background, we already hold the challenges of being in a same-sex relationship. So when the initial part of fostering or bringing a child into our home, it was a challenge for them as well, because they also don't understand the fostering system. They don't know what's out there and how they can potentially help. And I think the biggest shock was more so for me, because we are so family orientated and family based, and I come from my mum being one of 13 children and my dad being one of 12, aunties, uncles, 95 first cousin. For me, it was more about, if I'm going to get attached to this child, they're going to get attached to the child. And if this child does move on or gets restored to family, how are they going to feel? How am I going to have to deal with my emotion? Their emotion was something that sat heavily on my mind and also sat heavily on theirs. And it just took time to explain to them that we're not doing this because we're being selfish. As much as we wanted to start a family, this wasn't about us starting a family. This was about giving them, the child, a family, giving them stability, giving them a home, and giving them love, which is what they need. And I quickly stopped worrying about the outside circle and started worrying about our inner circle and how we can best support them. And if transition transition and restoration to family is on the books, which is what we always hope for, we're 100% on board to support and provide that transition as seamless as possible. Bond between my youngest and my eldest with my parents just alone, it is of grandparents and a grandchild. They love my parents love them. That's what warms my heart, is that I'm able to show these two boys what it's like to have a family and to grow up and to one day want to have their own children or foster their own children. Teaching them all of these life skills and giving them the opportunity to have good stories is a proud moment.
I had a long history working with TCI and being able to understand kids' behaviours, and I've worked really closely with Naji as well, and I think just being together for 18 years is, he's been able to pick up on ways in which we engage and talk to young people, but also in regards to life without barriers, we have received training, and training isn't just always a formal in a meeting room. It might actually be a little bit about advocacy and about how do we support this young person and what are the strategies and what are the considerations life without barriers we need to consider when we're working with a kid that's got multiple complexities. So whether that's, as an example, our older one now, he's got NDIS, so being able to navigate around the speech, the OT, the physio, the behavioural, the mentoring, there are a lot of services, but being able to coordinate them, making sure they actually happen and getting, our young one involved in it is critical, because, having the services but no participation means no outcomes. It might look good on paper, but it doesn't work. For us, it's just making sure that we've got them available, and I think that's the big thing about THBC, is making sure that we are involved in it. So we're part of the case reviews, we're part of each step basically, and we've got a higher level of autonomy around making decisions, which makes it much easier.
I think when it comes to therapeutic home care as well, it's not one size fits all really. Each child is different, each child's trauma is different, they're all complex in their own way. As much as we appreciate the support and training provided by Life Without Barriers, it's more so about that relational bond that you also build with the case manager, with the managers at Life Without Barriers, that when you do call or message or email or whatever it might be, getting that response is what matters most, because it's trying to give the child a voice. So we want to make sure that when we're heard, it's for them. And we build our training every single day. Richard's been in the industry for 25 years, and there's times where I also see him sometimes even a little bit baffled. I get sometimes baffled because you learn something new every day. They teach us as much as we teach them, and it's just a matter of building around their behaviors, their complex trauma, and creating a training in our home for us, for them, and passing that information on to Life Without Barriers, because even if we come across something that they haven't, that one little bit of information that they can include can support thousands of carers out there. I work full-time and Richard works part-time. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult depending on the hours of work. I generally leave the house quite early to try and get back in time before school. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we try very hard to not let it impact the kids.
It can be a challenge, when kids are coming back from school early, or there's issues around behaviour, or whether complex traumas occurred at school and something's just a trigger. We don't know what that is, but it just means that we have to go pick them up and spend time with them and support them. Being therapeutic as such doesn't mean that you let the kids get away with stuff. When these two boys moved in, I actually gave them both the same spiel about, we respect each other, we are honest, we are transparent, that we don't talk bad about other people, we work on ourselves. With the younger one, when he came in, because he didn't want any services, so I actually sat with him and drew out two pathways. One is the road that he's on at the moment and the alternate. And what I knew about this kid was he always wanted to be in control. So for me, it was just about making sure that whatever I'm presenting, he's in control. He's a driver.
And he's included.
But I think being able to draw out what a life could actually look like and how he is in control of that, something just clicked.
It wasn't an overnight thing. And this is what the therapeutic home care is all about. It's not about shoving something down their throat and saying, this is what you have to be, or this is what you need to be. It's more about gradually assisting these children to see the better life that they can have.
Real conversations.
Correct, real conversations, including them in the conversation, asking them, what do you want to do with life? What do you love? Because these are some of the questions that people just completely just glaze over and not even worry about. And it's just trying to understand them them and assisting them or guiding them into the steps in life that can get them there. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges. Every day is a challenge. Sometimes it's a challenge for these to get up in the morning. Sometimes it's a challenge for these kids to have a shower. Sometimes it's a challenge for these kids to even want to go to school, engage with people. We always strive to talk about the positives in every aspect, because the way we therapeutically care for these kids is to try and take the challenge and turn it into a positive, so we get them out of that mood, that obstacle, that barrier.
When kids don't have routines or structures, they get into a mischief. This is what happens, right? And what we strategically have done is made sure that there is, say, example, between their speech and their behavioural and their OT and their mentoring, they're quite busy after school. But we also do a lot of fun things. So, our boys, they had Leanne Rimes concert. They had Najwa Karam, which is a Lebanese singer. They've got Oprah coming up. They've also got Guy Sebastian
in April.
We plan things in advance because, you've got to have things to look forward to. And for the kids, it's no different. They need to feel alive. They need to be able to share experiences and stories. Most kids in care don't have a lot of experiences. Experiences changes everything. Our kids have a new story every month, and they're meaningful, real stories. They're not privileged. They don't feel that they're spoiled. They deserve it. Why wouldn't they have the same opportunities that we have as adults?
One challenging thing that I will mention with both the kids was visually seeing what they had planned. And we noticed that with both the children when they first came into our care. So we've now got a digital timetable that sits on our bookshelf that these boys get up every single morning. They have their chores on there, which they tick off. They can see what they've got on in the afternoon, whether it's OT or speech, and even all the fun things that we organise, whether it's a family event, Christmas Day, a shopping event, even something as small as just going to my mum's every Friday night for dinner. That's all placed on their timetable, on their calendar, so they're able to see what they have on for the day. And the challenging part, especially for Dennis when he first came into our care, the constant question after question after question, because he didn't know. He didn't know what to expect tomorrow and didn't know what to expect the following day. And the defiance when it came to speech therapy and OT and behavioural therapy for both children was because they were not involved in that process. Giving them the opportunity to sit down with the speech therapist, and if they did not click or understand how to interact with this particular person, which is what has happened, we always say you always give a second chance to your first. And when they give them that second chance, we will always take their advice and their challenge on board. And one of the biggest challenges for Dennis was he did not particularly get along with one of his therapists, and he gave them 3 chances and he just didn't click. And we kept having that defiance. I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. And it was until we involved him into the care, into the decision of who his OT specialist was going to be, is when he thrived. It's being able to take that step back and listen and understand, because sometimes they can't articulate or express the true feeling or meaning behind their outburst. And it's just us as carers taking that step back, looking at that challenge from a very different perspective between the two of us, and then involving the young person in the decision. And you see a completely different side of things, because it allows them to say, I was able to make that choice and someone actually listened to me. And I don't have to be angry. I don't have to challenge them. They're not making the decision for me. They're allowing me to make the decision for myself. But it's just a matter of taking that challenge, taking a step back and just realizing, why is that challenge present and how can we
humanize it?
Yeah.
I found a way of being able to put a device that not only holds their appointments but has their list of chores and allow them to be responsible in managing it. Every morning our young one, and both of them actually, but in particular the young one, comes downstairs and is vigilant. We'll go on there and we'll put the bins out, we'll take the rubbish, we'll vacuum the floor, and that's their chores done. We don't have to say anything. It does 2 things. One, it allows them to feel that they're part of a family, so they're contributing, but it also skills them up. Our young one loves cooking.
It's something that he loves doing. He loves it. Every single day when we're in the kitchen cooking dinner, he will always just stand there and watch and ask, can I cut the onion? Can I cut the mushroom? Can I cut this? Teach me how to make the schnitzel. Teach me how to make this. And now, after 12 months, he makes the tacos on a Tuesday. He loves to do it. He knows how to do it. He cuts up all the vegetables, cooks the meat, and cuts it all perfectly. And it's just another proud moment. So, yeah.
Outbursts with our younger one could last for 3 days. We are now at no more than about 5-10 minutes. The level of regulation has just meant that he can really think about what he wants and is able to move on to the next thing. We have moments in our life where we as adults, I mean, I can tell you the meetings I go to where there's things I'd like to say, but I can't. And it's no different for a child. You know, one of the funny moments actually is where I said something to the young one and they went, And I said, did you have something to say? And they said, yes, but I'm not going to keep it in my head. I said, that's really good. So just being able to practice sometimes that there's things that you want to say, but it's not the right time and it's not the right place. It's impressive that, you know, we've seen a transformation. I mean, a kid, 12 years old, can't read, can't write, wasn't seeing speech. There was none of his services were available. And he was so angry and didn't want to see anyone. Since being with us, and it's been just over a year now, he's got his behavioural specialist, he's got his speech, he's got his OT, and he's got his support worker. And those services are all working together, and we coordinate those. And I work really closely with the NDIS and with Life Without Barriers caseworker.
Our youngest, the way he articulates his sentences now, and sometimes his smart-ass comments, you cannot get upset because he articulates them so well, because he's worked so hard over the last 12 months with his speech therapist and his behavioural therapist and his OT to try and get that education that lacked for such a long time because he felt like nobody cared, and it's just that one little bit.
The relationship with his family is so important, and we've got a really good relationship with both. For Dennis, you know, his mum and his dad and his sibling and the foster carer, we've got a fantastic one. The younger one's been in 12 different homes prior to us, and the mother had absolutely no time for any of the services. And I think it's not because the services were bad, but it was more because that's her experience, right? And that's what happens when you have a system that is just difficult. But our relationship with her is phenomenal. And in fact, you know, two things took place. One is where she actually called Life Without Barriers and actually said that it was the first time she's ever felt respected by carers, which is great because, you know, our job as carers is to judge mum or dad, right? Because their story is their story. And, you know, right or wrong, we can have our own views, but we weren't there. We understand the hardship. When you don't have financials or you're not stable, it can be difficult and it can change very quick. We've been able to work so closely with his mum. It's also meant that he has now started to work with his mum.
One big thing that we teach both our children is that we would never accept anybody judging them, so it's not acceptable for them to judge anybody. And restoration to family is always something we hope for, but it's sometimes not possible. But maintaining a relationship with the family, a good relationship with the family, is so important to us.
With the younger one, the mother actually told us and told the caseworker that she felt so safe that he was happy. She'd never seen him happy as well. And I think for him, he has been able to open his heart, and that's powerful.
It's just a matter of teaching our children to respect them. Respect them when you have a visit. The visit might be for half an hour, the visit might be for an entire day. It's just up to the child to make that decision. We give them that choice, and we just teach them. Respect goes a long way. You show your mother and father respect, they will show you respect. And if you feel at any point in time that they're not and you want to terminate the phone call or walk away from the visit, we will respect you and we will give you that option.
We don't want to step on anyone's toes. And we're not there to replace. That's one thing we're clear about.
100%.
We're not there to replace the parenting.
I've always wanted a child or a baby of my own to grow up and one day call me dad. He does call us dad.
Proudly.
He does.
His choice.
It is his choice. He does it at school with his friends. If he's sitting on PlayStation and he's communicating with his friends, and I walk in the door after work and he will say, my dad's home, I gotta go. And it was the same feeling, if not better.
I got an email, it was so funny. I got an email from a school and he said that the teacher had a
Sticker.
Yeah, a sticker. It was a father sticker.
Yeah.
And he had actually said to the teacher, oh, can I get two? Because I've got two dads.
Yeah.
It was actually really cute to read as well. And I spoke to him about it when he got home, and it was just like, he just said it like off the tip of his tongue with no hesitation at all.
Yeah, no care.
Very
he was
proud.
Just didn't care what anyone else was going to say or judge. We leave that up to Dennis. Dennis does have a disability, so we take that on board, especially when we teach him life skills and when he's ready to take that step to move out on his own or make whatever necessary changes that he needs to fit within his life. We're there to support him 100%. But he's 100% in our care and he'll remain in our care until he's ready. Fostering doesn't stop at 18. When you bring anybody into your home, and you love them as your own, you don't think about their age, it's more about when they're ready. Definitely do your research, have conversations, call up the agency. There's always somebody there to answer any question you might have, good, bad, ugly, sad, whatever it is, ask the question. You might be able just to step in and assist other foster parents by doing respite care. See how you feel with that. Start off with something small. It doesn't have to automatically go into full-time care. If you're out there and you're looking to help and assist these children to give them the best chance at life, then you're the right person to be a foster parent.
Well, from my own experiences, I think don't always work on what you see in paper. Every kid deserves and has the right to be respected. And what I have found is that, you might get information about a child that can make you think, can we? Every kid has an opportunity. And I think that when you allow kids to be kids and when you provide love, it is amazing what will come out of it. And I have worked with some of the most difficult kids on paper, but when you meet these kids, they're hurt children and they just want to feel a sense of identity and they want to belong. And I think if you can provide that, you can do anything. The only thing I want to say is advocate for your kid. It's okay to ask more questions and to hold the services accountable. We have a responsibility and we have to make sure that these kids have a real good hot crack.
The reward of meeting some of the most amazing case managers out there and the managers, I know that they care as well and they wholeheartedly want to see these children succeed in life. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to a lot of the case managers that have come in and out of our homes, and I hope you continue to thrive in the industry and assist more kids.